Right, taking a look at these mulligans, and there's one of the infamous lava bursts in Chakki's deck right off the bat. Maybe going to throw that one back. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Doomhammer and Lava Burst are really unlikely to stay in that hand.
Yeah, Shaman v
Zombie
Shaman.
Zombie Chow Shaman.
Oh, okay.
It's something that you see on ladder a lot.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it a lot from these players, so it's interesting that this is the style that he's chosen.
Does it have other cards like Sea Giant in it? I wonder.
Oh, that's
because that's where the Zombie Chow is. When
you
see that, when I see the Zombie Chow, I'm like, oh, I know a Sea Giant in this deck. I know it's coming.
Yeah, and the thing is we talk about the difference between ladder decks and permanent decks, right? Or tournament decks, rather. And the thing is ladder decks have to be good against a lot of different things because you never know what you're going to hit on ladder.
Sure.
So if I'm bringing a Shaman deck to the first match of a tournament, I don't know what my opponent's going to be playing. You need something more well-rounded. So this, not a bad choice.
It does give him a chance to be on the board first with the Zombie Chow, but even something like a coined, either the Harvest Golem or the Feral Spirit here will, let Chakki stop the beats, and as soon as the Zombie Chow dies, heal him right back up. It's not like Priest where they can play an Akanai Soul Priest and turn that Death Rattle into damage or anything like that. So it's just for early board control. He decides to hold on to the coin though, and he's just going to go ahead and play out his Haunted Creeper.
Yeah, I guess so.
I do like that though. The Zombie Chow, again, it's not about the health in this matchup as much as the early game development of the board. And that Zombie Chow challenges pretty much anything that comes out, whether it's totems or this Haunted Creeper. And it's already doing work right here, just putting on slight pressure.
Oh, I think you nailed it when you mentioned totems. I mean, it especially handles totems. And if you can get your totems out while denying your opponent Shaman's totems, that's a big, big edge until like Lightning Storm comes around. But if you can force it early, get them really overloaded, it's a good start.
Zombie Chow, the Totem Slayer.
Yep, that's right. That should be
his
a little
like this summer to you.
He's back from the dead.
There have definitely been times where I've done something like coining out a Loot Hoarder to try and be a Totem Slayer. The problem with that, of course, is that it can get Earth Shocked.
Right, right.
And you're just like, oh, I'm sad now. But Zombie Chow's a little more resilient and costs half the mana. All right.
Yeah, works for me. Now, what about this turn here? We've got the Feral Spirits to worry about. So, it's tough to clean that one. You don't really probably want to use Lightning Storm so early, but I'd honestly be fine with like a Gnomish Inventor here. Just get another body on the board, draw a card.
Would you attack and kill a Feral Spirit, do you think?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It is an option. You could do it.
It certainly is. I mean, yeah, and even still, Lightning Storm not a huge threat as a follow-up because, of course, the Harvest Golem comes back as a damage golem. And that Zombie Chow, I mean, you've already gotten pretty good value out of it already. So, yeah, maybe.
There is some risk with playing the Feral Spirit and attacking with your two guys into their Feral Spirit. Yeah, that they might have Lightning Storm or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like that's overcommitting a bit to go for Feral Spirits in this case. Yeah. Would you Lightning Storm yourself, though, and maybe use Rockbiter to kill whatever was left over, then hit 4 to face?
Storm yourself. Oh, I see. Play your own Lightning Storm.
Not cast Lightning Storm on yourself, but you yourself cast the spell Lightning Storm.
Sure.
I was not an English major.
Well, I think that play is very creative. I'm not sure. The
Can you do that? Can you target
play.
yourself? Can we make that happen? No? Okay. All right.
All the damage go to you. Like if there's 10 minions, it'll deal 20 to 30 to your
It's like Handlock just hits himself for 20. It's like Mountain Giant's turn 1. Yeah. But he goes ahead, and he does just play that Gnomish Inventor. Yeah, I think that's a good, safe, stable play to do at this time. It's not an overcommitment. You draw a card. Right. And, what other turns going forward are you really going to have to do something like that?
This is where having the coin as a Shaman player is really important sometimes because it fixes your curve where overload becomes a problem.
Very true.
All right. Well, he is going to prioritize getting the board. Again, the Harvest Golem is sticky, and it does challenge usually whatever comes out. But then you have the opportunity to go for defender value here.
He could. He certainly could do a lot with that Defender of Argus this turn. And I mean, the only thing that's really keeping that Lightning Storm from looking really good is the fact that the Harvest Golem still hasn't had its Death Rattle activated yet. If that was the case, maybe I'd lean a little bit more towards that.
Yeah, I like being able to try and reset your opponent's board as much as possible. As much as you try to intimidate your opponent with like sticky minions, try to have something to stick. If you can impact your opponent's board, then cards like Flame Tongue and their defender becomes much weaker as well. So say you use Defender of Argus, you Rockbiter, push through, you shave it down to just a single 1/1. How is he going to collect any value off of his adjacent cards that's supposed to get 2 for 1 value?
I think you're right. And he will go ahead and clear some of this. Leaves the damaged golem out there, though. Doesn't want to lose his own chant, of course. All right. And this is interesting, too, because we haven't, you know, we've seen a couple shaman versus shamans today, but again, it's been these weird shamans where it's like the standard shaman that we kind of know and love, you know, or hate if you play a lot of Control Warrior, against these new kind of really bursty shamans that we're seeing out of Chakki and a couple other players here and there. Yeah, Team Coast.
They love the bursty shaman.
It's interesting.
So, showing self-restraint in the Lightning Storm seems to be the biggest key a lot of times. I mean, it feels like there's an appetizing way to clear the board, but is this an opportunity for you to hold Lightning Storm and potentially get better value later on, or do you feel like now is the appropriate time to go for a clear?
I do think there's a little bit too much risk with going for a Lightning Storm here. If you could guarantee yourself rolling like a Spell Power Totem or something like that, I think you could make an argument for it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But as it stands, if you don't hit 3 on the 3s, it doesn't really do much of anything. So there's a lot of risk in going for it, and not unless you get hit 3/3 on both. You're not really doing much. So
anything else, though, is still awkward mana-wise. Whoa, Hex on a damaged golem to seize back some of the tempo. We've seen plays like that before. I know that Zanrable is nodding in approval somewhere in this room.
Well, I mean, it does get a little bit more edge over to the other side. I mean, yeah, just having a 0/1 is certainly better than the alternative. But look at this. Now we have that Fire Elemental coming in. Of course, no overload the previous turn, so he's able to cast it right away on turn 6, and that is control taken right back again. And the threat's coming out, too.
He does have a way to remove. I mean, this is where Salt Boys unite, supposedly, right? They have the ability to see some of the plays and bounce it off each other. That's a play that's most people would not make whatsoever. I mean, the fact that the Harvest Golem there, at best, trades an even value, but it already killed one of your minions. But at the same time, it's important to seize back the board, like we've been talking about all game long.
Yeah. Oh, okay, looks like it's going to be Defender of Argus here, and he's just going to ignore that Fire Elemental for now. He could have killed it with the Lava Burst, but again, kind of the objective of this deck seems to be to sort of save those for sort of a killing blow at the end.
Yep. And it's kind of unfortunate, though, because he's so far off from a point where he wants to be going for a killing blow that this card is going to be dead in his hand forever unless he decides to just, well, fine, I got to use it as removal.
You know, and I feel like that's what we've seen a lot of out of this deck, is we've seen those Lava Bursts just sit there all game long, and I don't feel like I've really seen players using this deck, you know, the Team Coast players, get the opportunity to really make this work.
Yeah, I wonder a bit how it went in their testing that they decided that they really wanted to go for it. He gets a low roll on one of the minions, so he does have to trade in his damage guy.
He got a high roll on another one, so it couldn't be annoying.
50-50 there. All right, well, Earth Shock, that's pretty nice for that egg if he wants to do it. I mean, obviously the Haunted Creeper, a target as well.
So he has to decide if he wants to use that Lava Burst or use the Hex. He really doesn't have a choice but to deal with that Fire Elemental one way or the other. Either option is okay.
I'd kind of lean towards Hex, because you want to keep the burst, you want to keep the objective of that deck open, you know? And you also don't want to be overloaded, too, so we'll see what he decides to choose. Yeah, and he will just go ahead and Hex that Fire Elemental. Yep, probably the safer road to go again. You know, I mean, you want to set up some sort of burst, but man, this is one of those Shaman games. It's just kind of, it just sort of stalls out. You know, I mean, neither player really has very exciting options. I mean, now we look at this. Yeah, I guess Feral Spirits. I mean, you've got the egg out, so Lightning Storm isn't as much of a threat. You're only really worried about Earth Shock and then Lightning Storm at that point. But you're so afraid of overcommitting, and so both Shamans just kind of like, it's a staring match right now, basically, you know?
Yeah, Zombie Chow not exactly making waves.
No.
Just yet. In fact, you just don't want to overextend on the board. You haven't seen the Lightning Storm yet, so you're aware that it could be a possibility.
I think we might this time. Yeah, we'll see him maybe go for a Spell Power Totem and then possibly Earth Shock Lightning Storm, because you definitely want to Earth Shock the egg before you Lightning Storm.
Yeah, it's basically killing a 4/4 with the Earth Shock.
Yeah, pretty much.
Better than Earth Shocking the Haunted Creeper, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
But not getting Spell Power could be pretty unfortunate. It could still work out fine,
you know,
but
what else do you do this turn? That's the thing. There's just not a lot of great options at the moment.
Well, I think
Chakki
you might want to not Lightning Storm if you don't get Spell Power.
He got it, though. He got the Spell Power Totem, so he's got a guaranteed kill. on everything.
Right, only 1/1s remaining.
Yeah, just a couple spectral spiders coming out of that Haunted Creeper's death rattle. That's right. So, I mean, you got the totem you wanted. Do you commit? Do you go through with it? Earthshock the egg. Yep, he's reaching for it. And then you Lightning Storm. I think this is kind of his only move. And, you know, 1 out of 4 chance, and it worked out. He got exactly what he needed.
The game is now kind of a top deck war.
Yeah.
Right.
It is a little bit.
This is where cards... Yeah, absolutely. And this is where cards like Azure Drake and Mana-Tide Totem become super valuable, because
you need draw.
Whoever can get the card advantage from this point on, like even if you pick up Doomhammer and start smacking whatever comes out of their deck, you're going to be running away with the game, because if you can establish a board when it's very clear that you've been exhausted in resources, like every big draw or big creature is monumental from this point on.
Well, there's Lotheb. All right, Totem to see what he gets first here. Spell power, I think you still go with Lotheb again. I mean, if anything, it's going to trade fairly well. You're hoping anyway.
Yeah, you're definitely hoping to trade for a bunch of minions with it.
Yeah. I mean, playing Lotheb into a 10-mana turn for your opponent is probably the least ideal situation you can possibly play Lotheb in, but you got to do. And this is kind of a cool play. He could go Egg into Hex, actually. That 8-mana Hex could still be used on Lotheb if he wants to go through with it.
I'm surprised that he wants to play the Egg if that's what he's going to do. I would think that he maybe would want a Totem. He only just has the Spell Power Totem out right now.
And maybe.
But he's not worried about the Totem, so he's willing to just trade in. He only gets 1 damage in, of course, but his board is growing again, and anything like Flame Tongue Totem all of a sudden will be a huge problem.
Well, it's so crucial that he, didn't lose anything on the board. Oh, but
that's a big draw.
Yep.
Definitely one of the cards he wants to see.
Oh, he draws into a Lightning Storm, and his opponent only has 1 card in hand. I mean, he still needs to worry about that Nerubian, but that is about as good as you could hope here. He's going to wait to use it, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very imposing board, but the fact that you get the second Lightning Storm is... I mean, this is one of the most valuable cards in the entire matchup.
It's really nice to just have it in your hand, you know, more than anything. Have it ready if you need it. And so now, I mean, if we look over at Protohype's hand here, he's got the Earthshock. He can take away the taunt and the spell power from the Azure Drake. No. Okay, no spell power totem. Well, he does have a spell power totem, but he would still take most of his board to trade with this, you know?
Yeah, he's going to trade 2 of his minions in. You got to do it, though. The spell power represents too much of a threat, not just because of Lightning Storm, but because of how much synergy there is with every single aspect of Shaman.
Right.
Like Lava Burst, Earth Shocks, Lightning Bolts.
Blood Mage. Wow, so he can have more spell power if he wants it.
The thing is that he doesn't have a good way to kill off the Egg first.
Yeah, that's
that's what he was hoping to do when he made the plays he made last turn. He had both the Azure Drake, which as far as he knew couldn't be killed on board yet. So he doesn't have a way to kill off the Egg and then Lightning Storm.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other kind of annoying thing to deal with is that Sludge Belcher, right? That's going to take a lot to kill, you know, more than the Nerubian Egg, really. I mean, a 4/4 is a little bit easier to deal with than a 3/5 that comes back again as a 1/2.
I actually think it's possible that he'll use Lava Burst here. He hasn't wanted to use it all game, but if there's a time to use it, it's when your opponent's hand is empty and your minions are supposedly going to live long enough to use Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
And you don't have to use your Lightning Storm either. So this way, he may even have a chance to roll something like a Spell Power Totem, and his opponent gets a Lightning Bolt. That's something, but...
Yeah, it can definitely clear.
It doesn't do much, though. It kills a Defender of Argus that's already done something.
Do you ever think about... never mind, that's a crazy idea. I was like, you ever lightning bolting your own egg if you're that desperate?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really...
At this point in the game, that's an interesting thought, actually.
It's a pretty difficult way to turn on that light switch, but...
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's like instead of flipping it up with your finger, you hit it with a sledgehammer. It's like, yeah, you might get the light on, but you're going to destroy the switch. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you got to keep Lightning Bolt.
I think he's going to, too.
Use it.
Maybe not.
You might kill the 2/2. I mean, he might make his opponent's board just the Blood Mage. That would not be as scary, and his opponent would still not have a good way to break the egg first.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter if Blood Mage is out right now. I mean, the health of whatever's on his board and the fact that he has an egg means that Lightning Storm doesn't really matter anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose you could just leave that Blood Mage out there.
Okay.
He's trying to figure out if there's any reason he needs to hold the Lightning Bolt, and it looks like he's at least mostly decided that he doesn't need to hold it for anything. He might as well kill something now.
Yep, I think that's reasonable.
And it's still anyone's game. Having the egg and the zombie chow and whatnot are definitely, ooh, wow.
Okay, well now
Right,
we can clear board.
Now it's clear.
Yeah.
Now it is a top deck war.
Yep, that's right. I mean, he can go ahead and use a Lightning Storm, and then once a Nerubian Egg pops, he's got a 4 damage Lightning Bolt because of the spell power from Thalnos to clear that.
Yep. He's got a 2-card lead, too, because he's got Thalnos, which replaces itself, and the Flame Tongue Totem.
And he can also even get out the Flame Tongue Totem, too, yeah. Right.
He could. He would only be able to deal 3 damage right now. Maybe that's enough that it's worth it. It, you know, plus 2 damage this turn.
Well, with your opponent with no cards in their hand, too, I'd say, you know, why not? Why not just throw it down there and see what happens?
Well, the risk is if your opponent top decks something like another Fire Elemental. So
you'd wait, you know?
You would lose your Flame Tongue Totem, and all you got to do was 2 extra damage to their face.
Yeah.
As where you could hide it from their potential removal.
Wow.
And he's going to Lightning Bolt the Zombie Chow.
Okay.
Huh.
I think I like that less.
Me too. Yeah.
I normally don't want to like comment on that, but
no, you're right. I mean, having a full board clear and having a minion on the board when your opponent doesn't, including no cards in hand, yeah.
Well, there are risks involved with doing it. Like exactly what Real says. The Flame Tongue is very vulnerable. Hey, by the way,
that's not bad though.
1 of 2 Doomhammers, and that is an important draw for Chakki.
Yeah, that's a huge draw. He should be able to get something done with here. He can start clearing totems.
Yep.
Can he clear the board completely? Probably can with Lightning Storm.
if he held the Lightning Storm last turn, I wonder if he plans on holding the Lightning Storm this turn as well.
Nope, doesn't look like it, I guess. Yeah, didn't get 2 spell power.
He did not get it.
Yeah, rolled low, but he's going to be able to kill the Doomhammer. He's got
okay.
plenty of health to work with, so it's not a big deal.
Still pretty good.
The true top deck wars begin now, where neither player has any card in hand.
Rockbiter weapon, ooh, that's not...
Attach it to your opponent for good measure.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can kill the Flame Tongue Totem. That is helpful. That does deny 4 damage on the board, so there is that, but still, it's
advantage
a little
Chakki.
bit awkward.
Yeah.
Definitely a big advantage, Chakki.
Wow. Yeah. Another way to impact the board. Start pecking away. This is looking bad for Protohype.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a little while. These guys don't have a ton of damage on the board and a lot of health remaining, but for now, big edge definitely does go to Chakki in this Shaman versus Shaman match.
Shaman's a class that also struggles with the draws because it's not as simple as just getting like an Ancient of Lore and all of a sudden you're having like a lot of options at your disposal.
Yeah.
It's just simply the one card you have is often the one you get, and then you also have a lot of cheap spells like we saw. Like you sometimes get the Fire Elemental, sure, but you also get like the 1 mana cost spells.
1 mana Earthshock.
And you're floating 8 other mana, 9 other mana.
Yeah. Well, Earthshock on the Sludge Belcher, that really helps out. Ooh, and a thank you. Look at that.
Wow. Chakki is sitting very comfortably, and it's not like he's worried about his opponent bursting down. And he's even saving charges on his Doomhammer in case he picks up Doomhammer number 2. Doesn't really matter.
Why not, yeah.
All right, well, there is the Fire Elemental, but it's a few turns too late, possibly.
Healing
he does
Totem.
still have 17 life. He's not dead yet, but it will become increasingly more difficult to stay in this game.
Yeah.
There
There it is. Yeah, second
too.
Doomhammer. You called that. If only you could dual wield, right, in Hearthstone. Replace your hero power with a second weapon. Ooh.
Do you want to draw a card with Thalnos
I like
first?
that.
I draw a card with Thalnos.
He could draw a card with Thalnos.
I mean, it's pretty
going
much
to
sitting
draw a
there.
card.
It's probably
as
better
searing
than 1
totem.
damage a turn at this point.
Anything's better than a second Doomhammer in your hand right now.
Huh. Okay. Well, the
he's
1
just gonna
damage
go
has
all
been
out.
affecting for the past 3 turns. This Thalnos has done 3-4 damage plus some spell power boosts.
Whoa.
All right.
Is that really necessary?
Well, I believe if he picks up another thing.
Now Harrison
but,
Jones hits and he's like, oh no.
Oh, that's true. We forgot about the possibility of it.
That's the thing.
Reals knows all too well about the potency of Harrison Jones in this match.
Right off
true.
the top of the deck, man. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fire
Oh,
Elemental means
Elemental.
Fire Elemental. Is that
4 plus 4, 8
6? No,
plus
he has
3.
9.
No,
He's too short.
Yeah.
Wow, super conservative too. Just making sure not to not to lose any resource unnecessarily.
Right. Well, wait. Let's
Oh,
see. This is actually.
He doesn't afraid.
Okay.
Yeah, this is almost enough. Not quite, but it is close. Okay, taking out the spell power totem, fairly reasonable. Why not? You know.
This does mean if he draws an answer to...
Chakki, didn't your mom ever tell you not to play with your food?
Well, now he's not... if he rolls a Taunt Totem.
Well, he's not going to play it out. That is it, and Chakki manages to take game 1 here. The Burst Shaman back in action again.
Yep. I mean, it wasn't really so much the burst that played that big of effect. I mean, the Lava Burst did have a role. The second Doomhammer did end up making an appearance, but it was more the fact that Chakki was able to gap control the board in that scenario where it's all the resources have exhausted, and he had the
I mean, yeah, you can hard counter it, but then they hard counter you, and if you're down a game in the series, you know, that kind of puts you at a disadvantage. So take something you're confident you can win 2 games with, and Zoo can definitely take 2 games in a row off of pretty much anything.
Protohype serious, man. He's getting into try-hard posture.
Yep.
Getting into his comfort zone, which is important. These players, it is some of their first tournament, so getting comfortable is the most important aspect. You haven't even seen his final form yet.
We know those are comfortable chairs, too. You know, at some point he might just, like, slide back between the cushions, and you just see, like, 2 arms sticking out.
Oh, gosh.
They're
so
actually,
comfortable.
the chairs are actually pretty big.
Yeah,
some of the players are swimming in them. Chakki's really tall.
Lose
so
some of these guys.
It just looks like a chair.
Fits normal.
Well, the coin does go over to Zulok, which is a nice start there. But if you look at his hand, I mean, I suppose I would still coin out Knife Juggler here. I mean, you got to take the risk. If you don't coin out Knife Juggler, then, you know, if they didn't have Lightning Bolt, if they didn't have Rock Bite or something, there's more of a chance they'll draw it later anyway. So I think a lot of people are just going to go for the Knife Juggler in this case. But no, it is going to be Abusive and Voidwalker. Interesting, you know, and that's a choice that a lot of people have wrestled with a lot of the times. And you know, most pros I've talked to have kind of leaned towards coining out that Knife Juggler. But if you're really worried about some sort of removal coming in, I guess this is a slightly safer way to do it.
If you think you can bait the removal, then you might be well off for it.
Well, that's kind of why I always go towards it too, because I'm like, I'm okay if they overload themselves on turn 1, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's another way to think about it. If you have the coin and they have to basically just do nothing on turn 1. So if they're on turn 2, you deny them a hero power, you make it so that their next turn they still only have 2 mana.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the Knife Juggler coming in a little bit later, and he's not going to get any, you know, straight up drops off of it or any knives off of it just yet.
Yep.
And we can see that Lightning Bolt in the hand for Chakki, so he does have a way to handle this right now.
Do you feel threatened enough, though? The Harvest Golem is an important drop to eventually hit, and I suppose if you use Lightning Bolt here, you still can drop the Harvest Golem next turn?
Yeah, that doesn't really change anything. I mean, you could say, too, that you could do a Lightning Bolt and then Totem, or even drop down Blood Mage Thalnos, too, honestly, and set yourself up for a little bit of a draw. But you really want that Lightning Storm, and you want to save Thalnos for the Lightning Storm against Zoo, though, so probably would see a Totem if he goes for the Lightning Bolt.
Well, if you go for Lightning Bolt here, what you can do is set it up so that your mana is efficient for Doomhammer on turn 5.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because if you Lightning Bolt the following turn, say you drop Harvest Golem and Lightning Bolt if you do something else, then you can't use it on turn 5. So I think this is a smarter plan to use Lightning Bolt here when I reevaluate the situation.
Yeah, I guess so. He does go for it, too.
I kind of like playing the Blood Mage Thalnos as well. It makes it so that he's more guaranteed to be able to trade with the minion that is already in play. And what it also means is that his hand has more of a chance to...
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Doomhammer number 2. It's not the first time we've seen it.
I mean, this is why people generally only include 1, because if you draw 2 early on, they just kind of sit there, you know?
What if it was an Alakir? That's the card that it would otherwise be. I think he doesn't have Alakir, so...
I suppose. Okay. That's a good point.
I think the theory is that he considers Doomhammer to be better than Alakir, and so he'd rather have a better chance of drawing it.
It's usually more damage than Alakir in a lot of cases. Right. So
if you give Chakki the chance to run 3 Doomhammers, he'd probably do it.
Doomhammer number 3.
3 Doomhammers.
I don't think he'll lose to Priest after that. He'll just continue to whack away whatever he has.
Doomhammer number 3 was the name of my prog rock band in high school too, actually.
Yeah.
Coincidence, I know, yeah, it's true.
Funny how that works.
Yep,
well, the play here is pretty... there's only 2 ways to go about this, whether or not you want to trade or you want to go face.
I feel like you just go face here, make them run into it. With that Divine Shield on the Argent Squire with the egg out there, you're not as worried about Lightning Storm. It's going to take multiple cards to even set up AoE. So Yeah, why not? Why not get a little bit of damage on a shaman that's not going to be able to heal himself?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I value the second defender too, because you know Lightning Storm is an inevitability in this matchup, assuming the worst of your opponent having that card. And defender is one of your ways to potentially put yourself out of that range.
He's considering using the Soulfire.
I was going to say, yeah, I think he was considering with the Soulfire so that he could completely clear it, but he is going to go ahead and just reduce this down to the damage golem. And you know, sometimes we see players play a little bit too slowly if they're nervous or something like that. And you know, when you're switching from control to aggro and back and forth, sometimes it's easy to play control too aggressive and aggro too slowly. And I don't know, I mean, we'll see what he goes with. It certainly does give him board control, and that is important, but it sets up the clear a little bit easier for Chakki this turn.
I wonder if he'll do something like just playing a Feral Spirit here. Doomhammer is also an option. He's hovering over it, he's holding it, so he's considering Doomhammer. The thing is that you do start to take a lot of damage. The good news is you're starting at 30.
Right. Yeah.
So
I like Doomhammer over the Feral Spirits at the moment, because Feral Spirits is cheaper and you can squeeze in the following turn, but you can't go the opposite way. If you play Feral Spirits, next turn you cannot Doomhammer. And of course, what we were talking about before, you got to start Doomhammer sometime.
Well, what do you think?
It's inevitability.
What do you think about Hex on the Nerubian Egg too? Because now he's gonna go ahead and pop it this turn. It looks like he's gonna get that 4/4. Doomguard the draw as well too.
Yeah, I think the Hex on the 1/1 is if you're in a desperate situation, but there's no rush at the moment. If he has to pop the egg himself, you might have a better opportunity to use Hex in the same situation anyways, because Hex on the 1/1 doesn't really make a difference on the 4/4. So I think you let your opponent show what he has and then respond from that position. In fact, he even gets something slightly better of it, because if he Hexed, that would have been a 1/2 frog.
Yeah, nice defender of Argus actually. That sets up a pretty strong board, a 5/5 and a 3/4 taunt.
he's going to be really, really incentivized to use the Hex on the 5/5 now.
Yeah, I would say so.
He might as well, but it does mean that the Doomguard is going to be a very, very scary Doomguard.
Yeah, it's not going to get Hex anytime soon. What's the draw going to be? Haunted Creeper?
Not
Okay.
a 1-mana spell.
Yeah, I think you can go for the Doomguard here. Might as well.
We saw the first Hex, so it's unlikely you'll have the second Hex. And you put your opponent at 12. I thought he was at 30 a couple turns ago, Reels.
Yeah,
it drops so
wasn't
fast.
he just?
Yeah. Oh, man, he draws right into the second Hex.
Well, it's as if Chakki knew.
You really can't hope for more than that.
Feral Spirit is pretty good. You get to Fire Elemental next turn.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
That was a huge draw.
That was a huge draw.
It's pretty good.
Well, can he answer back with Doomguard #2? Even if he does, there's Feral Spirits in the way.
Well, and he gave up one of his Soulfires too. It's not as easy as pushing through.
Yeah.
Oh, Harvest Golem.
Well, Harvest Golem has arrived.
Dark
Dark
Well,
Dwarf.
he can play the Dwarf and kill a totem, or not a totem, but a taunt token. A Feral Spirit will go down.
Yeah, definitely not the worst. I would.
Oh, that's nice though.
I would think Fire Elemental on the 4/4, and attack the 2/1, and just leave yourself with the Feral Spirit in the way of the 4/1 Dwarf is something that he could do. You figure you're probably safe. Your opponent could draw Soulfire #2, but that would be the only thing that would be really bad.
Yeah, I mean, at 12 health, too, you're probably not going to be dead no matter what, so...
You do need to trade pretty efficiently at this point, and that would be one of the more efficient ways to trade.
Yeah.
Attacking the 4/4 with your weapon could be much scarier.
Well, that's pretty much what Zoo would hope you would do. So that way you play closer to their routes.
Right.
So, you guys were recommending against it. I'm agreeing. I think we can agree.
Yeah, I mean, you can also Flame Tongue next to the token and trade that, but it looks like he's not going to do it.
Okay. Next turn he'll have, what, 9 mana? So he can still Fire Elemental whatever is the remainder of the taunts. He gets guaranteed 2 targets this way, and he still could Flame Tongue the following turn to boost his defender if he needs to.
Yeah.
So seems like a decent compromise.
And then just 4 more to the face from this Doomhammer. Nope, just using 1 instead.
Yeah, it's not a race for him. It's about controlling the board and eventually running away with it.
Well, he's got 2 Doomhammers. He can be as aggressive as he wants with those.
Okay, Soulfire, an important draw here.
Yep.
Helps him control the board a little bit more.
Yeah, you can play everything you want to. So what's the Soulfire target here? Let's see, because ideally you want to clear everything, you know?
Well, you can't clear it all, but I think you will get both of the taunts out of the way.
Yep.
I mean, the taunt totem that's buffed up will die either way, versus the Defender of Argus can kill off the Direwolf Alpha. Right. So this is his logic.
Oh, Lightning Storm drawn though.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Fire Elemental Lightning Storm is a board clear.
Yeah, sure it is.
And he keeps up a taunt totem.
Wow, this is a big turn right now for Chakki. Yeah.
He was probably fine even without it, but that
was the straw that broke that camel's back.
That kind of seals the deal a little bit there, doesn't it? Yep.
Because he used second Soulfire there in order to get through, and now it's not as simple as getting Doomguard. It's going to get stopped.
Yep. Yeah. Doomguard is not enough by itself anymore. Haunted Creeper, of course, not going to do it either.
Oh, man.
Well, Dark Iron Dwarf, you know, you got to play it, but it's pretty uninspiring at this point, too.
I don't see a way for Protohype to get out of the situation, and Chakki already feeling confident enough. He's even drawn Rockbiter with his Doomhammer, and that's game.
Yeah. Rockbiter on the Doomhammer, that's 10 damage to the face. Oh, and not even giving him the satisfaction is Protohype, conceding. And Chakki jumps out to a 2-0 lead with the Shaman deck.
Have we seen any 2-0 leads yet today?
Yes. We've seen a couple, maybe one or two.
We've seen some 2-0s, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And did they end 3-0 or?
Never.
No. Mostly like a bunch of 3-2s ending up after that.
That's right. It's not indicative of how the series is over by any means, especially because we spot some differences right off the bat. A Black Knight in a Hunter deck is... Well, let's just say that it sometimes doesn't feel fair if you're on the receiving end and you're playing a big taunter creature, but let me tell you, it is very relevant and powerful.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I mean, we see a Leper Gnome as well, so it wants to be an aggressive Hunter deck, it looks like, but it goes all the way up to 6 mana for that Black Knight. I wonder what else is in here. I wonder if he does go ahead and run those Savannah High Mains.
He also kept Loot Hoarder, which is interesting choice. You know, I feel like a lot of times as the Hunter player, you want to push as hard as you can to get that Undertaker. So that's what the deck's built upon. I'm assuming with all these death rattles, that's what it's in the deck.
Yeah.
And, you know, keeping Loot Hoarder sometimes can be anti-tempo on the board because it's so fragile and weak, and Shaman can answer it perfectly, honestly.
You know, the one reason I could think Loot Hoarder would be a decent keep is because it might force out an Earthshock early on, and that's something that won't hit your Savannah High Mains later on. So,
also true.
I could see it from that perspective. But it looks like...
Instead of using that Earthshock, he had an option too. He just plays out his Blood Mage. It threatens the Leper Gnome all the same.
It's the mana. It's just like you can't Earthshock for 1 mana and leave 1 mana floating, especially next turn you can Totem. It's like, I'm a strong enough man, I can endure this.
Feral Spirit, very, very important draw. One of the cards you like to see as early as possible.
Utmost importance. I know Magic Win from China, and who's participating in the OGN League that you were casting a lot, says Feral Spirit is the card you need against Hunter. Like, you mulligan as hard as you can for that card.
That's right, and I would trust what that guy says, man. I mean, he won his first season there, and then he just was runner-up last season, so he's
made a lot of money off Hearthstone.
Yeah, he is definitely one of the best players in China, and comes over to Korea once in a while to win tournaments there, too.
Not shy of eye contact.
The bad news for Chakki is that even if he does play Feral Spirit here, there's Coin Houndmaster ready, and we don't see a lot of Houndmasters hitting.
You're right.
On these beasts, but Haunted Creeper definitely a beast, and this is not going to turn out that well.
A little foreshadowing.
He's going to hunt him down with the Houndmaster. There it is, coins into the Houndmaster, and that'll take out one of the charges of the Feral Spirits.
Kind of bad news for Chakki. This is a really, really threatening board to deal with. Undertaker for him. I wonder if he's only playing 1 copy of Undertaker, because we haven't seen very many Undertakers for him.
That's been interesting. I suppose you do have to Earthshock this, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. You can't let that get out of control and pick apart your Feral Spirits for free. And rolling a Totem would have been way too passive. So.
Oh, yeah, of course. You don't get anything really from that. The Undertaker drawn now for Protohype as well.
So he has to choose if he wants to develop his Undertaker or protect his 4/3, and he decides to let it go. So,
wow. Well, Lightning Storm will destroy this board, and barring an unforeseen top deck, I feel like that would be a priority.
Suppose you could grab a Totem first just to see if you get that spell power.
You could get away with not using Lightning Storm.
You could.
You could, yeah.
I think Lightning Storm is a pretty good option here, though. And either getting the spell power totem or even if you don't, rolling 3 damage on that Undertaker is probably going to be a really big deal because it'll make a difference of whether or not he maybe gets to keep 2 minions in play for Defender Vargas next turn while he's overloaded.
Excellent observation. He will be on 4 mana, so he will be able to play it.
Spell power totem.
Well, you know what?
Well,
no guessing necessary.
Don't need to be that close to see that. Minimum 3 damage clears everything easily.
Chakki's totems seem to be in line for him.
Well, that Undertaker draw, not the strongest thing right now for Protohype. He doesn't really have anything to pair with it even.
Exactly, and we were talking about this last night over dinner. You know, we were saying how Undertaker is one of the cards that drops off the sharpest every single turn. Like the power level decreases as the game goes on is so dramatic, and for this reason, where sometimes if you have no ability to even combo it, you just draw it on turn 5. It's not that late. It's just so weak, like you can't do anything.
Yeah,
it's worse than an Argent Squire.
You know, he's going to play it, but lately I've been kind of just holding it into my hand until I can play it with like a Savannah Highmane, or in other matchups I play it with a Sludge Belcher, so you at least get the 2/3 out of it, you know?
Oh, man.
He's playing it now. It's probably not going to live too long.
Another great draw for Chakki. Things are falling into place beautifully for our Coast player.
I think he's very likely to play the Defender of Vargas here. If he figures that is a freezing trap, he'll use the attack on exactly like that.
There we go,
And now he even gets to take out his opponent's minion.
Yep.
Okay.
So, very, very good news. His opponent does have Savannah Highmane. Protohype does have the Highmane, but it's not looking like it's going to do quite enough. Even if Chakki has to use his Lava Burst to take it out, he's probably won't be too sad about it.
Yeah, he's still sitting on a comfortable amount of cards, and Hunter's running out of them. In fact, there's not many cards you can use to leverage the board. It's just responding to it.
Well, that's kind of the strength of Shaman in general, is that you get to put out a lot of totems, you get to have a lot of value from your items, and you get that card advantage too, just because you're just not going through stuff as fast as your opponent is in a lot of games.
Well, he's seriously contemplating about the merits of clearing this board, or like setting up the bow, or putting out the Highmane, but I think they're both about the same.
He could certainly clear the board in Highmane next turn.
Yeah.
I would think he'll come to the conclusion that his best chance is to play the Highmane. It still won't be that great. It won't turn out great, but you've got to figure that that's your best chance to deal 26 to that Shaman.
You know, your opponent will be on 7 mana, so it's not like he's unrestricted to do anything. So, and it only gets worse from that point on. Because you're leaving an empty board for you to respond once again. There's no guarantee the Highmane gets down on a safer board next turn.
Yep.
Well, okay, he is going to go ahead and go for the board clear instead and kill command on that Defender probably.
He was grabbing at both. And
oh man, talk about being neutered. There's just no power right now in the Hunter's hand other than this one Highmane, which now there's an answer to in the form if you set up a board and you have the Earthshock, you can shut down this Highmane.
Yep. I feel like Totem Earthshock is, or not Totem Earthshock, Totem Feral Spirits is going to be the play.
I mean, next turn you just stack up another spell power totem and just drop 2, make a pair. Drop their Earthshock.
Ooh, that's a good point. You could actually get 2 spell power totems out, which would be really terrifying. 3 damage Earthshocks and 7 damage Lava Blasts.
Lava Blast, that sounds like a cool card.
Yep.
I want some of that.
Lava Burst.
Giving Real some idea for creating cards for Shaman. Now, do you play this Flame Tongue Totem to increase the damage back on the back?
Put my name on that one.
I guess you might as well get the mana out of your hand now. You will be overloaded a little bit less turn.
You don't care about Unleash that
more
much?
next turn.
You know, some of these decks
Unleash is a
aren't
concern.
running Unleash though too now.
Right.
Yeah, so does Chakki think this deck has Unleash in it? That's kind of the question. And honestly, at 26 health with this type of board, I wouldn't be too worried about Unleash anyway.
We did see that he is playing Houndmaster. Some of the more aggressive decks don't even have Houndmaster in them.
That's right.
And maybe he's playing a more mid-range version that starts at the bottom with Undertaker and whatnot, but then it ends up at Sludge Belcher and Savannah Highmane and all that stuff.
There's just so many non-beasts that Houndmaster has a very select few targets like Haunted Creeper and Animal Companion, nothing else. Loatheb, great to deny a potential swing through spells.
Yep.
Things are looking grim for the Hunter player here.
Yeah, he has to just play the Savannah Highmane.
Shaman's just on way too much health, and the kill commands are already been exhausted.
Okay, so more direct damage.
Is that the end?
Dude.
Oh, that is the end.
Let's see, he's got 10,
yeah,
and then the lava burst with the spell power totem. Oh, doesn't even need to. He's got Rock Biter. That should be it. And Chakki is going to get the first 3-0 of the day.
Yeah, look at that. He throws down his spell power totem again from the hand. Oh, even Earthshocks himself. And there we go. A little bit of BM at the end, but that's how we like it here. The first 3-0 up here on the main stage, and Chakki stays alive in BlizzCon, or Road to BlizzCon.
Well, Protohype gave it his all. He came in here as a substitute and won the replacement qualifier bracket, but ends up having to stop here. Well played, and Chakki will be the one that goes on to tomorrow to play for the second place spot of his group for top 8.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't say enough about Protohype. I mean, he played well all tournament, and he had an extra long road, actually, to this point.